Welcome back. The White House and Republicans in Congress are looking to make a new push for President Trump's agenda. Some lawmakers now think they've found a solution to help speed along tax reform and a health care overhaul at the same time. Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows says his colleagues are now in talks with the White House to combine the two bills and do it by September. Listen.
The quicker we can get these tax reforms in place, make sure that they're retroactive, the better the economy goes quicker. And so whether we combine them or not by the end of July, at least we need to be prepared to do that and make sure that at the latest we're looking at September. But there is real discussion going on right now with that, not as much in the Senate, but certainly with the administration and others that are talking about it on Capitol Hill.
That was Mark Meadows on Fox last week. Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise is the House Majority Whip, and he joins me right now. Congressman, it's good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Thanks so much for joining us. So what do you think? Is that a viable plan, combining the health care and the tax reform bills, trying to make that one piece of legislation, get it out there by September?
Well, obviously, we want to do this as quickly as possible because we know cutting taxes is going to inject so much momentum into this economy, create a lot of jobs. We also have the health care bill moving through the Senate, and I know they're trying to get the text finalized so they can ultimately get to a vote by July 4th. And I think both are important to do, and to do them as soon as we can. The process is important, but the policy is even more important. And right now we're working on getting an agreement on the best way to get these tax cuts put in place, just like we did with health care. Putting that coalition together is a delicate balance, but we did it in the House on health care. We're working on that right now on tax cuts to cut taxes and simplify the code.
So just to be clear, will you accept what the Senate brings about on the health care bill? Are you done, or are you going to have more tinkering? Or will you accept what the Senate delivers?
Well, we want to see what the Senate does. I mean, obviously, what we sent over to the Senate was a bill that lowers premiums, that actually puts families back in charge of their health care. It protects people with pre-existing conditions, and it defunds Planned Parenthood. And I think we're going to be looking for all of those things. If the Senate can find a better way to thread those needles, that's great, and that's what they're working on right now. But those are the things that we wanted to achieve in the House, and we did in our bill.
Are you looking seriously, though, at combining the two bills to create a legislation that will lower premiums in health care, reform Obamacare, turn it around, and also have tax cuts and tax reform on the table?
Well, I think that the Senate is a lot closer to a consensus on health care right now than they are on tax cuts. But ultimately, we need to do both, and we need to do both as soon as possible. I agree with Congressman Meadows that having the tax cuts in place and having them apply to the current year, in other words, retroactive, is really important to creating jobs and boosting the economy. And we're working on all of those in conversations with President Trump and the White House staff.
You probably have had the most success, you and your colleagues, in terms of deregulation, rolling back regulations that has already helped the business sector loosen up money, and they are doing so and responding by investing in their businesses and hiring new workers. Let's talk about the passage of the Financial Choice Act. Why was that so important in terms of rolling back some of the burdens that were holding business back from hiring new workers?
Maria, obviously you know this, Dodd-Frank has crushed our local community banks. It's made it harder and more expensive for first-time home buyers to get a loan, for small businesses to get a loan. It's increased the cost of things like checking. Free checking used to be commonplace. It's becoming less common now because of the unworkable burdens of Dodd-Frank. And again, Dodd-Frank was all positioned as some bill to go after the big banks. Frankly, Dodd-Frank enshrined too big to fail and bailouts, and it crushed our community banks. We're losing a community bank a year. Chairman Jeb Henseling and his committee did a great job of putting a bill together that guts Dodd-Frank, returns power back to local communities, and gets the weight and burdens of all of these regulations off of families so that they can actually go out and create the American dream again, buy a home, create a small business. It was a great bill. We had a very strong vote, and that's the kind of thing we've been doing in the House, is passing bills to get some of these unworkable regulations off of the backs of people so that we can get the economy moving again, and you're already seeing very positive results.
Yes, I know that you are. Congratulations on what you've done with deregulation. But Congressman, you got to admit, the American people are just outraged by the calendar in terms of Congress. I mean, you've got, what do you have, 38 days left or less in terms of actually working? How is it possible that you guys have the entire month of August off? Is it possible that if you don't get tax reform done, that you will forego your August recess and you'll keep working until you get this done?
Well, I've always been somebody who says you get your work done while you're there. You know, there are deadlines for a reason. It forces people to come to the table. You know, we've been working on health care and tax cuts for months now. And ultimately, you need those deadlines to force the folks that are still not there yet to focus and get the job done. We've got to get the job done. We've got to pass health care reform. And we've got to cut taxes and simplify the code. Imagine if you can actually do your tax returns on a postcard.
Yeah.
Over 90% of Americans will get that with our bill. And you cut tax rates for everybody and repeal the death tax.
And if you don't, will you not take vacation?
Come out of this.
If you don't, will you not take vacation?
We're just going to stay in and get it done, Maria. That's the thing. You know, we're going to get the job done. We have to for the American people. And this economy is waiting. There's so much demand pent up. Let's get it done.
Thank you so much, Congressman Steve Scalise. We'll be right back.
When it comes to investing, looking from a fresh perspective can make all the difference. It can